Alex, talk about Texas a little bit. They're always a pretty prolific offensive team. What do you see?
Just very talented. I mean, they have a guy at every spot. I mean, kind of as you look at offense, as you break them down from a personnel standpoint, for me, maybe because just historically being on the defensive back guy, you kind of look at the quarterback, those are the skill guys, and then kind of work yourself to the line. But they got a guy at every spot, which poses real challenges defensively. And then the one you circle, obviously, at the quarterback spot, is the ability to just make so much happen. And both in, specifically in the pass game, but also in the run game, ability to extend plays, hurts you with his feet, and direct the ball downfield to some explosive receivers. So, no, it's what they're cracked up to be, and so it'll be a major challenge this week.
Isn't their run game with the quarterback, the way they load it up, isn't that pretty difficult to stop with him?
Well, so much of quarterback run game is kind of spread you out, spread you thin, and then kind of look to crease you, which they have the ability to do, but they also have the ability to kind of some more downhill style quarterback run game, which poses a whole other challenge. So no, they use it well, they use it in the right spots, and he's very gifted that way.
Hey Alex, when you talked during the preseason, I think about how your DB should expect the ball, and so when you see a guy get a hand on a ball and not come down with it or drop it, I mean, is that especially frustrating? Should you guys be past that now? Do you think?
Yeah, you'd like to think so, and maybe you're never. I mean, it's all. What that specific play, that specific Saturday, minimum you want to get one hand on the ball, but goddamn, we got to find a way to get two. And when you get two, you got to come down with it, and then you got to catch the ones they throw at you. And I think we haven't done a great job. We really haven't. Do you do enough ball drills? The answer is yes. There's not enough time in your 20-hour work week for a DB to do more than what we already do. Obviously, we make a huge emphasis of it, and then devastated we didn't get a takeaway last week. Does it impact that particular Saturday? Maybe it doesn't, but you run the risk that it will. Mm-hmm. So we got to find a way to come down with those. Are we surprised by the football? And you got to analyze. You got to analyze as a coach, and then the individuals got to analyze it. If the ball surprised you, why? And there's not really a good answer for that, and so we're just going to make sure that one, be where you're supposed to be, and then number two, expect that you're going to be the one coming down with it.
Is that a question you ask your guys when you're watching film about stuff like
that? Well, we really that's a recipe for asking for an excuse, and so no, we just tell them to expect it, and as the sooner you can locate it, the better off you are.
Texas receiver corps is full of big-time playmakers. It looks like we've got experienced guys and fast guys and big guys. How do you prepare for that kind of diversity in a receiver corps?
Well, and that's there's not we're not going to magically get taller, and so what you need to do is put yourself in a position to be top down. I mean that's the magic phrase, and that's every week. But obviously when you're talking about the skill set of what we'll face this week across the board, it doesn't just include on the perimeter in terms of the corners. It also applies to the safeties, nickels, backers, and all those things will all be stressed that way. Stressed vertically downfield, and then can you put guys on top of the guy that's supposed to be on top? Sure you can, but then you're thinner in the run game, and so that's the difficult challenge in terms of playing defensive football. But is there one specific answer? No, but certainly being in a trail position puts you in a real deficit. So we got to make sure we're staying top down.
So do you think this is going to be the toughest offense you're going to see this season?
Well, it's certainly the toughest we've seen up to this point. It's going to be the toughest one we see this week, and our antennas are up. The respect factor is through the roof in terms of how we certainly respect every opponent, but the film speaks for itself, and there's no sugarcoating it from the standpoint of trying to temper down in terms of who they are, what they are. The film's the film, and so who they've done it against, how they've done it, how consistent they've done it, not just this year but in years past. Just a major challenge.
What about the running back spot? It seems like they keep fighting guys that have had many injuries, and they just keep fighting people. Your thoughts on that?
Well, what you see is in an offensive line that regardless of personnel finds a way to create seams and create creases, and they again kind of a stable back there in terms of guys that can get loose and make you pay for not being sound in the the run game, and then we've had some of those issues, and so those certainly look to exploit it, and we got to make sure that again, going back to let's talk about the receiving core, make sure we got guys on top, and then you say, well, we got to make sure we got enough bodies in the run game, and then you see the conflict that you are in as defensive coaches, and so no, like I continue to say, it's going to be a major challenge for us.
How much more does it give you to think about when an opponent has a bigger quarterback that can run inside like the 5 or the 10-yard line when he becomes a goal line option all of a sudden?
Sure, I mean, and what you see is just some guys have the size. It's one thing to say they have size, whether we're talking about the receiving core or you're talking about in this particular case the quarterback in the run game. It's one there's other guys that are big, but he has a unique ability to find enough of a crease and then kind of create the pile moving forward, and so it's why they're good at what they do and why they've had so much success.
Alex, are you a guy who gets fired up for rivalry games, going back to when you were younger? I mean,
well, what I'm not is not one to downplay a rivalry game, and so to ignore the implications, I think it's naive as a coach and it's make believe. I also will say that my thrill in terms of a Saturday is not limited to rivalry games either, but have a great appreciation for the opponent, what it means to this university, and what number one on this is how much of a challenge it's going to be. Typically, these rivalry games, those rivals are good teams, and so you got to play your best football.
Who was Mount Union's biggest rival?
We had John Carroll, which I know the viewing public is really excited about Streak Week. But I will say this is big time's where you are, and you can't convince me that wasn't a big game.
Yeah,
kind of feeding off Tyler's nailing here in the run game. What about his arm? How's he throwing the ball this year?
Well, the numbers speak for themselves. I mean, you got quality in terms of in the short intermediate passing game, completion percentage, and getting it to playmakers' hands, and then also the ability to throw the ball up and kind of in jump ball situations and in situations where receivers are behind DBs, and so what you see is kind of spread the field that way, spread the field in the pass game, and then obviously what that creates in the run game. So it's impressive.
How do you balance that, embracing a big game and then still trying to treat it like it's a normal game week?
Well, I mean, I guess balance is the right word. I mean, you would really lose a lot of credibility as a coach if you said you didn't prepare very well last Monday, in front of your players, and then be an indictment against us as a coaching staff to say that we didn't prepare for South Dakota. But all the same, the emotions will run high. Obviously, keeping composure is a critical piece to this thing, and then embracing it. It's why you come to Oklahoma. It's why you want to be at this level. There's not many games like this. There's less games like this than a lot of people think. Again, you're talking to a guy that hasn't been part of one yet, so maybe I'm not an expert on it yet, but certainly have enough appreciation for who these two programs are to kind of make an educated guess as to what this is.
Did you ever watch these games when Mac and Bob were kind of at their height?
Absolutely. I mean, it's a game, unless you're playing. And if you are playing, then you're immediately checking the score, and so it's one that when that comes around the bottom line, or you see the score, or you got to tune in. These are the fun ones as college football fans.
Last November, you got a lot of these same questions in Columbus, I'm sure, about the Michigan game.
Sure.
You hadn't been in that one.
Yeah.
You got in it. Was it any different than what you were expecting, or what was that game like compared to your?
Sure. No, I think kind of what you find is the stadium, the game day feel kind of feels a certain way and looks a certain way, and then when the ball's kicked off, the football game breaks out, in a lot of ways. But obviously every play, I think about playoff baseball. All of a sudden, every pitch is paramount to the success of that team that you don't see in the regular season. I think maybe using another sport, maybe another rivalry game, kind of specific to last November. You kind of feel that and see that every play kind of has a life within the stadium. And what you got to do is you got to obviously focus on your preparation, the things you've done up until that point. And it's certainly not the time to try new stuff, in terms of techniques, fundamentals, and all those things. And so it's thrilling to be a part of ones like these.
You talked about signing up for the Big
Sure.
12 challenge.
That's right.
This in particular, though, is a sort of a make or break type game in people's minds.
Sure.
Maybe that's not fair, but that's the way it is.
Well, yeah, I mean, again, what you to downplay games like this again, I think it's naive. Now there's a week 7 coming after it, and so you got to make sure that the difference between what you mentioned and it's not November, but on the same token. What you're trying to do is play your best football, and it's going to take your best football to be successful, and so that's where the focus has to lie, and you certainly understand that you got a responsibility to play your best in these type of games.
What are your priorities to improve this week after the Kansas game?
There's not an area we can improve. You know, I think if you finish better in the fourth quarter, maybe you look at the score a little bit different, but it wouldn't change who we are. And I kind of, and maybe this is, my self-talk I'm sharing with you right now, but there's been a couple instances this year where the fourth quarter, you look up with 12 minutes to go or something like that and saying that you got a chance to finish this thing off the right way, and the number's going to look a certain way post-game, and then all of a sudden you look up with a couple minutes left and you say, doggone, we kind of let one get away from us, not from a win standpoint, but just simply from a number standpoint. So why do I bring that up? The numbers could feel or look different if we finished a couple of these things better and maybe in situations that weren't really contested into the fourth quarter, but that wouldn't change who we are defensively and then the challenges that we have. And so in any event, I think we can continue to play better downhill football. I think play more confident, in terms of, I want week 6 to look different than week 5. And I don't know that week 5 looked different enough from what week 4 looked like, and just making sure that constant improvement. So it's in all areas. What play you made last week, you got to make again this week. So it's not specific to one tackle here or, what I want to see is takeaways. I mean, that would be going to have a major impact on this game on Saturday. We all know that.
Alex, you talk about the importance of getting off the field on third down in a game like this.
Well, and then I've said it before, the only difference between this, the third down stop and the takeaway is field position. And so, when you get them in those situations, and it's going to take every ounce of energy from 11 guys on defense to get them in those situations on third down, that you got to find a way to take advantage of it, and you got to make a play, and then that kind of what's it all come back to? I think as you go back to last Saturday, I think we made plays. I think there was more plays to be made. And so if we leave the stadium and say we made our fair share and we played hard, then we'll probably like the result. And if we don't, then it'll probably go the other way. So we got to make sure that, again, specifically those third downs, is that someone's got to win a one-on-one, offensively or defensively. And that doesn't mean man coverage. That just means somewhere there's a one-on-one. Someone's got to throw off a block, make a tackle. In a short yard situation, someone's got to throw off and get to the quarterback. Someone's got to make a play with the balls in the air, and so those are key downs for us.
After you've watched film, what do you think of how Ryan Jones and Ubegbu looked at, I guess, the Sam Nickel spot?
Yeah, it's something that kind of affords us an opportunity just from a personnel standpoint to take a look at, getting a couple bigger bodies, out there that may present itself again over the course of the season. I just thought it was responsible to take a look at that. I thought they did some good things. I don't think life is as different as maybe they would have suggested early in the week in terms of being on, down to the field side instead of to the boundary, and so in terms of what we asked them to do. But, again, just trying to personnel matchups, offenses do it a lot, and then, what are you going to do defensively to kind of match that or kind of give yourself the best advantage that you can. And so that was one of the things we decided last week. We'll see if that's something that we use again.
Most of these OU Texas games are decided deep in the fourth quarter. How important is the depth that you developed so far this year in this game?
Sure, I think it's something that's got to show up. I think, when the opportunity presents itself to, get guys rotated in so that you can be as fresh as possible going into a fourth quarter battle, a 60-minute type of approach in terms of how you handle your depth chart, but the guys got to earn it during the course of the week. And so what we're not going to do is put ourselves in a situation that we're taking player A out, just put player B in. This is not that week to do that by any stretch of the imagination. But no, you like to think certainly at some spots that we'd be able to play multiple guys and make sure that we're playing fast and hard through a full 60 minutes.
Alex, where's the most growth you've seen out of Parnell so far since you got here, be it mental or technique-wise?
Well, I don't think there's really any area, from an academic standpoint, social standpoint, responsibility standpoint. and obviously football-wise, that he has made major improvements. And I don't think any one of those is mutually exclusive to the last. I mean, or to the next. I think he's dialed in. He's bought in. You know, it's a tall order being a defensive back. You're not going to win every battle. We don't expect you to. But you see a guy that's, I think, is playing with some confidence, and I think he's also a guy that even when he may end up on the other side of a completion or some of those things, that you see how competitive it can be. And so you can still stretch yourself and from a positivity standpoint as a defensive back, even some of those scenarios. If you're losing every battle, then obviously it goes the other way. But been pleased with Parnell and the bulk of those guys, and obviously major challenge this week.
The safeties, obviously, you talked about you wanted them to play better. The last couple of weeks, they look like they've played better, especially on competitive plays.
Sure.
What's your overall thought?
Yeah, I've been pleased. I think again, you're seeing progress, and sometimes what you do as a coach is you look at all the one play that you struggle, and not this is just one play, but you kind of focus on some of those things. But what you're seeing with Delarin and also with Pat is guys that we're feeling more and more comfortable with the amount of snaps that they're playing. You know, if are we going to take them out of the game to put player B in if we think it's going to be lesser than what we're getting from those two? And the answer right now is we won't, and two, they're kind of earning that right to say, well, that's the conversation. Again, we got to develop, but the conversation doesn't need to continue in terms of how do we get them off the field. It's we want them out there, and they're showing some production.
Have any of the holdovers on the staff clued you in about the situation of the game, the rivalry, the fanfare, all that stuff?
Yeah,
or do you just talk X's and O's?
Well, obviously, Coach Tibbs has been around several of these, and Coach Ruff the last couple of years, and obviously, I think number one, the emotions of the game. I mean, you're going to be able to feel and have an understanding that a good play is going to feel like your home team, a bad play is going to feel like you're an away team, and kind of being able to ride those waves, and understanding that momentum is real, but also your ability to attack adversity is just as real. If you believe in one, you got to believe in the other, and so that's kind of the message, and making sure that guys remain focused through all those.
Any comps in your experience besides Mount Union?
I'm sorry.
Any comparisons?
Well, I think Ohio State, Michigan, obviously be one. I've played in a couple of SEC championship games and a couple of games to get to an SEC championship game that are obviously critical to, again, specific years in some of those regards. But in terms of true rivalries that are played every year, again, as I mentioned, there's Washington State, Washington is a big one up that way, and we were on the short end of that, so never got a chance to experience the good side of it. But there's less of these than again most people think.